Okay, this is what happens when experienced rabbis, but inexperienced with, oh God. Sorry. Somebody was ill, and I'm the backup rabbi for another congregation. I got to turn this thing off here. All right. Yeah, take it and get it in the back. No, I'm not going to take the call. It's okay.
Sure, you don't have to?
Yeah, I don't have to take the call. I won't forget it. Don't let me forget it. Oh, let's try again. I'm Rabbi Mark Bisman. I'm the Rabbi Emeritus of this congregation, and I'll be clearly different than our Rabbi Andy Green, who's away. But we want to welcome those people who are online and those people who are here in the sanctuary. We're going to be following the outline provided, which says we begin on Shalom Aleichem on page 5 at the bottom. We're welcoming, I got to say, we're prolonging Shabbat. Shabbat doesn't start for a while in terms of candlelighting time. And for those people who wait till the end of candlelighting, it's a long Shabbos. So good luck. Try to enjoy it. And we'll try to create the mood for welcoming the Shabbat here to now. Shalom Aleichem at the bottom of page 5 in your Siddur, Lev Shalem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharet, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech, Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Boachem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Barchuni LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malachei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzedchem LeShalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mi Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We turn now to page 10, to Yedid Nefesh, relating to Shabbat and to the presence and the feeling the presence of God as something very dear and close. Page 10. Yedid Nefesh av harachamam meshoch avdach el ritzonach yarutz avdach kemo ayal yishtachaveh mul hadarach ki yerav lo yedidutach mino fetzu fechol tam Hadur na'eh ziv ha'olam nafshi cholat avatach ana el na'refa na'la v'harot la no'am zivach as titchazek v'titrape v'haita lach shivchat olam v'tik yehemu rachamecha V'chusna al ben ohavach, ki ze kamach nichsaf, lirot b'tiferet uzach, ana eli machmad libi chushana ve'al titalam, higalena ufros chaviv alai, et sukat shelomach, ta'ir eretz michvodach, Nagil avanis mechabach, Maher ahuv kiva moed, V'chaneni ki me'olam, Yalalalai, 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 Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la. Okay, we now move to the section of the service where you have the advantage, because I have not been to a Friday night service via Zoom in many years, so I've got my melodies from a long time ago. Well, you'll see how old they seem to be. L'chun Rana that I remember from, I think it was from the Hasidic Song Festival that got adapted, page 11. L'chun Rana, l'chun Rana, l'chun Rana, l'Adonai. L'chun Rana, l'chun Rana, l'chun Rana, l'Adonai. Naria, Naria, l'tzur yishenu, nekadma panav betoda. Naria, Naria, l'tzur yishenu, bizmirot naria lo. L'chun Rana, l'chun Rana, l'chun Rana, l'Adonai. L'chun Rana, l'chun Rana, l'chun Rana, l'Adonai. The end of this psalm on page 12 remembers a scene that's connected to this week's Torah portion about rebellion in the desert, and about the desire for things that we don't always have. So that's the reference to a generation that was troubled, that troubled God with wanting things that they thought they needed, even though things were provided. Arba'im shana kut bedor va'omaram to'ele vavhem v'hem lo yadu derachai asher nishbati ve'api im yivaun el menuchati. We'll turn to Yismechu Hashamayim on page 14. Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umelo, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, Yiram hayam, umelo, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, Yismechu Hashamayim, v'tagel haaretz. On page 16, Or Zarua Latzadik, also a melody ending the next psalm here. Or Zarua Latzadik, Ule Yisraelev Simcha. Or Zarua Latzadik, Ule Yisraelev Simcha. Simchu Tzadikim Baronai Vodu Lezecher Kodsho. In English on page 17 for when this book now divides Psalms into two parts. So if you don't remember automatically the number of the Psalm we're doing, you have to turn the next page. So this is Psalm 98. This is a series of 6 Psalms that they're counting off, so to speak, the days of the week, the Kabbalists of Safed in the 16th century. And anyway, so this is Psalm 98. The introduction goes, "Sing to Adonai a new song, for Adonai has wrought wonders. God's right hand and holy arm have brought deliverance. Adonai declared deliverance. As nations looked on, God's righteousness was revealed." The end of the psalm is on page 18. Lifnei Adonai kiva lishpot haaretz, yishpot tevel b'tzedek, v'yamim b'meisharim. Page 19. Adonai malach yirgezu amim, yoshev keruvim tanu ta'aretz. On page 20, it's pointing out Moses and Aaron in this week's Torah portion. Aaron and his sister Miriam die. So Moses comes to the end of his leadership, and this is remembering Moses and Aaron when they served together. The Romamu melody at the open box on bottom of page 20 is one we probably familiar from Shabbos morning as well as Friday night. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kodsho. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu romemu. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kodsho. Romemu Adonai Eloheinu v'ishtachavu lahar kodsho. On page 21, Psalm 29 has 10 references to the name of God and the sound, and this is interpreted as saying that the scene at Sinai occurred on Shabbat. That's one of the traditions. You can look on the English on the right-hand side on page 21, where it'll share some of the reasons for how they got to that idea. It's a mystical idea. Mizmor LeDavid, Havul Adonai b'nei Elim, Havul Adonai, Kavod va'oz, Ailai, Havul Adonai, Kevod Shema V'ishtachavu Adonai, V'hadrat Kodesh, Kol Adonai al hamayim, El hakavod hirim, Adonai, Amayim Rabim, Kol Adonai, Bakoach Hayai, Kol Adonai Behadar, Kol Adonai Shover Arazim, Vaishaber Adonai et Arzei Havanot, Vayarkidem Kemo Egel Levanon. V'siryon kemo ben remim kol Adonai chotzev lavotesh kol Adonai yachil Adonai midbar kadesh kol Adonai yechol el hayalot v'yechesof ye'arot Uvechalo kulo omer kavod ay Adonai lama bu yashava yeshev Adonai melech leolam Adonai oz le'amo yitein Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 Yai lai 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 lai. We turn now to Lecha Dodi, the mystical welcoming of Shabbat on page 23. This is where I don't know what melody is going to come up, but I'm going to sing a melody. Hopefully it's one you're familiar with. It's either the melody that I know from Lincoln, Nebraska in 1973 to 83, or it's one from Camp Ramah. I don't know what's going to come out, but we'll see what comes out. Hopefully it's one of the ones. There are many melodies. Lecha Dodi. So this could be the oldest one. Let's see. Lecha Dodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad. Hishmi'anu el hamyuchad. Adonai echad u'shemo echad. L'shem u'tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi likrat kala. Panei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala. Panei Shabbat nekabela. This is a different melody. L'chado di likrat kala, panei Shabbat nekabela. 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 Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki mekor haberacha, merosh mikedem nesucha, sof maaseh b'machshavat chila. L'chado di likrat kala, panei Shabbat nekabela. L'chado di likrat kala, panei Shabbat nekabela. Another melody on page 24, the last stanza. Lo, 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 tevo, shiva, lo, velo, velo, tikal mi, ma, tishtochachi, umatehemi, bach, yechesu ani, Ye'ami benivnata ir al tila lechadodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela v'hayulim shisa shosa yiferacha kukol mevalayich yasis alayich elohayich kim sos chatan al kala lechadodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabela yaminu smol tifrot tziviet Adonai Taritzi al yadish ben partzi v'nismecha v'nagila lechadodi likrat kala panei Shabbat nekabla. As you rise for the last stanza, we welcome those who may be in our midst who are recently in mourning. We pray, Hamakom Yenachem Etchem B'toch Shev Tzion V'Yerushalayim. May God help you find comfort. Boi v'shalom ateret bala, gam b'simcha uv'tzahala, toch emunei am segula, boi chala lechadodi likrat kala, panei Shabbat nekabela lechadodi likrat kala, panei Shabbat nekabela. You may be seated. Page 27, the Psalm for Shabbat. Mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, l'hagid baboker chasdecha, v'yamunatcha balelot, alei asor v'alei navel, alei higayon b'chinor, mizmor shir leyom haShabbat, tov lehodot l'Adonai, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. So when you're young, you go to these conventions as teenagers, and somebody gets up in the hall of thousands, a couple of thousand, at least 1,000 teenagers, and says, I want to teach you a melody. And this is the melody I learned from, I got it. Now I told somebody I can't remember a name when I need the name. So Peter Geffen. Peter Geffen was one of the first presidents of the National United Synagogue Youth. And he taught this melody to the words Aranein, which of course, right now, it's going to elude me that it's not on the page where I want it here. That's because it's at the end of a line. On page 27, starting with the small print, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 lines from the top. It says, I rejoice in the works of your hand, talking about celebrating creation, and this is how the melody goes. The words are aranein, which repeats several times, and then b'ma'aseh yadecha, ma'aseh yadecha is the works of your hands, referring to God as the creator. The melody goes like this. If you can, feel free to join in or substitute any words that work for you. Aranein, aranein, b'ma'aseh yadecha, aranein, 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 b'ma'aseh yadecha, aranein, 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 b'ma'aseh yadecha, aranein, 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 b'ma'aseh yadecha, aranein. That's to say that this rabbi who's retired for years, and I don't know how, I was a teenager, I don't know how old I was. You remember something that you learned when you're young. So I don't know what your melodies are, but those are the melodies that are important because somebody taught you a melody that made a difference at least at one point in your life. And hope you can remember them, and if you can share them with the Chazan, with the Cantor, I'm sure she'd be glad to introduce them to us. So Tzadi Katamar is one you should be more familiar with on page 28 at the open box in the Hebrew, talking about comparing not just the Sabbath, but the idea that righteousness is like now I can't say the word tamar. What is a tamar? A tamar is a cedar. No, tamar is not a cedar. It's a date palm. The righteous flourish like the date palm. The issue is that there's water that nourishes it and keeps it going. The melody goes like this. Tzadi katamar yifrach ke'erez balvanom yiske shetulim b'veit Adonai Bechatzrot Eloheinu yafrichu od yenuvun b'seva Tashenim v'rananim yiyu lehagid ki yashar Adonai tzuri tzuri V'lo avlatabo. We'll have to ask the Chazan for where that actually comes from, but I'll tell you that at age 13, my community in Houston, Texas, sent me to Camp Ramah in Ojai, California, and that's the melody they sang. So sometimes no matter how old you are, you remember those moments, and you remember the things you built at the camp that are now no gone because they changed the location of the camp because there was a fire, the whole terrible thing. You know, the world changes. It doesn't stay the same. But if you can remember a melody, it can hang with you, even if they try to move the buildings or something. Page 29, at the close, the last of the Psalms ends like this, and then we're going to invite those who are in mourning or observing your site to recite Mourner's Kaddish. We're on page 29. Mikolot ma'im rabim adirim mishpereyam adir bamarom Adonai edotecha nemnu miod levet chana v'kodesh Adonai leorech yamim. Invite those observing a yortzeit or yet in mourning to rise and affirm our faith in the possibilities of the future in spite of our personal losses on page 30. Yit gadal v'yit kadash shemei rabbah. V'alma divra chirute, v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, b'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehei shmei rabba mavarach, le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, shemei dekucha brechu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechemata, Damiran v'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. Okay, so you're used to sitting down for some remarks at this point, but since I've been talking all the way through Kabbalat Shabbat, I don't think you need any more remarks from me. I was just going to give you the outline of tomorrow morning's Torah reading, and anyway, I have no idea how we're doing on time. Guys, we're doing good. I should add remarks, or I should move on. Uh-oh, blame her. Okay, so the themes about tomorrow morning's story is combined from two portions. One of them starts off with a strange ritual that's sometimes called the red heifer or the red cow, which is some kind of ancient way to remove contamination that's perceived as coming in contact with death. And in the course of that portion, we have the death of Miriam. We have the announcement that Aaron and Moses can't get into the land because instead of speaking to a rock to get water, Moses used his staff and struck it. This is the section where we find out this tradition that said Miriam supposedly had a well that it was like, she had her own magic, and it traveled through the desert with her. So immediately after you hear of the death of Miriam, you hear the complaints that there's no water. I think that's where the Midrash got the idea. But anyway, the issue for Moses is that his leadership is coming to an end. He has frustrations getting the people across the end of the desert trying to get close to the land. There are some battles. The communities he wants to travel through won't let him pass. He has to go around. And Israel keeps complaining, and he's lost his patience with the people. Then the second Torah reading, as they've arrived at the Jordan River just opposite Jericho. And now we hear about Bilam, who was hired by a king, Balak, who wanted the people to be cursed so that he would not have to have a fight with them. But instead, we get the praise, Matovu o halacha Yaakov, because Bilam could only speak that which God allowed him to do. Now, if you know anything about Bilam, he had a donkey. And he rode on this donkey, and the donkey wouldn't move forward because he saw an angel with a sword. The donkey stopped. But Bilam didn't see this. This non-Jewish prophet, who was famous for telling the future, couldn't see. He couldn't see, so he strikes the donkey. Eventually, after several efforts at this, the donkey speaks and says, "Why are you beating me? Have I always been good to you?" And so at some point, Bilam is allowed to see that there's danger ahead and that the donkey could see what he couldn't see. So the great seer, who was famous for being able to speak words that came true, couldn't really see. The best part of any of this stuff is a reinterpretation by Rabbi Jan Urbach from the Jewish Theological Seminary. And she has an interesting interpretation. What's going on with this strange story about the donkey and Bilam? And she said, well, it could have been Moses' dream. Moses was having a lot of trouble. Like I'm having trouble with this machine. So in frustration, when you dream all kinds of things that supposedly solve your conflicts. And in this dream, there's so many opportunities for, if you want to interpret it as Moses dreaming, to see that sometimes leadership is not as easy as it looks. And Moses could complain to God in the dream and say, why are you beating me, making it so hard? I'm trying to do what you want me to do. I'm working as hard as I can. What's wrong? And in a dream sequence, it's not really God that he's talking to, but he's talking to himself. The idea that sometimes we feel that we can't quite get where we want to go. And the hope is, of course, that even if we doubt our ability to make a difference, we don't have to doubt that good will ultimately triumph. Though our own efforts in confronting and managing the worst within ourselves, in combination with opening ourselves to being transformed in ways we can't quite understand, somewhat mysteriously and in spite of ourselves, we may turn even our curses into blessings. We'll turn now to the evening service on page 39, 39A. Please rise as the formal call to prayer. Baruch hu et Adonai hamevorach. Baruch Adonai hamvorach leolam vaed. You may be seated. Try to join me in the English at the bottom of 39A. Baruch atah Adonai, our God, sovereign of time and space, whose word brings the evening dusk, whose wisdom opens the gates of dawn, whose understanding changes the day's division, whose will sets the succession of seasons and arranges the stars in their places in the sky, who creates day and night, who rolls light before darkness and darkness from light, who makes day pass into night, who distinguishes day from night. Adonai Tzevaot is your name. Living and ever-present God, may you rule. May your rule be with us forever and ever. Baruch atah Adonai, who brings each evening's dusk. Umavir yom umevi laila, umavdil ben yom uven laila, Adonai Tzevaot shemo, El chai v'kayam, tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, Hamari v'aravim. On page 40. Five lines from the bottom on page 40. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem negei yomam v'layla. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem negei yomam v'layla. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem negei yomam v'layla. Ki hem chayenu v'yorech yameinu uvahem negei yomam v'layla. V'avatcha tasir mimenu le'olamim. Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha v'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha v'hayu hadevarim ha'ele asher anochi metzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvlechtecha v'derech U'shochbecha uvkumecha, u'kshartam liot al yadecha, v'hayu letotafot beinenecha, uchtavtam, amazuzot beitecha, u'visharecha. Adonai Elohechem Emet. We continue with Micha Mocha on page 44. Umalchuto b'ratzon kiblu aleihem Moshe u'Miriam u'vnei Yisrael echanu shira b'simcha rabba v'yamru chulam Micha Mocha ba'elim Adonai Micha Mocha nedar b'kodesh Nora tehilot o seifele Malchutecha ra'uvanecha Bokeyam lifnei Moshe Ze'eli anu v'yamru Adonai yimloch leolam va'ed V'nemar kifad Adonai et Yaakov Ugelo miat chazak mimenu Baruch ata Adonai Gal Yisrael. Page 45, Hashkivenu, which addresses the ancient but also contemporary reality that darkness sometimes causes some fright and makes us nervous about what's going on. But however, this Hashkivenu, which I think came from a Reform Cantor that has made it into our world, I believe. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chayim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chayim. Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha v'taknenu b'etzah tova milfanecha. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chayim. As opposed to the melodies that I grew up in when I got out of rabbinical school, which were more like Ushmor tzeiteinu v'oenu l'chayim u'shalom me'ata v'yad olam Ufros aleinu sukat shalomecha Baruch ata Adonai Haporei sukat shalom aleinu V'al kol amo Yisrael V'al Yerushalayim. We rise for V'shamru, page 46, followed by the Chatzi Kaddish, and then the Amidah, which begins on page 47. V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat Ledorotam berit olam Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti leolam Oti leolam Oti leolam V'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat Lasot et ha-Shabbat Ledorotam berit olam Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim ve'et ha'aretz v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash Shabbat vayinafash v'shamru v'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat lasot et ha-Shabbat ledorotam berit olam. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba B'alma divrach yirutei v'yamlech malchutei B'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayedecho beit Yisrael Bagala u'vizman kariv v'yimeru Amen Yeheshmei Rabba mevorach Le'olam olol me'almaya Yitbarach, v'yishtabach Yitpar, v'yitromam, v'yitnaseh V'yithadar, v'yit'aleh, v'yit'alal Shemede Kudesha, Brechu Le'ela, Min Kol Birchata V'Shirata, Tushbechata V'Nechemata, Damiran Be'alma, V'Imeru, Amen. Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel vimru, amen. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, Yal kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, amen. Page 54. Yikra v'ikra shemei Rabbi, v'yamal divrach yirutei, v'yamlech malchutei, v'chayichonu v'yimechonu v'chedecho beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kariv v'imru, amen. Yehi shmei Rabbi mevorach, le'olam ulal me'almaya, yitbarach, Yitbarach v'yishtabach yitbar v'yizramam v'yidnasei v'yitadar v'yitalei v'yitalal shemei dekudesha brechu le'ila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata demiran b'yalma v'imru amen tikabel salon v'adhon decho Yisrael kodam uvon devishmaya v'imru amen v'hishlam araba min shmaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen oseh shalom v'imromav hu yaseh shalom Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. Okay, it's our custom to say Mishaberach for those who are ill. I'll also pause at the end if there's someone that you're thinking of and want to mention a name. I have a list here. And I'm pretty familiar that the rabbi reads the Hebrew for the Hebrew names, back and forth. Okay, so my apologies to anyone. I didn't get this until just now, so my apologies if I mispronounce anyone's name. You'll find the Mishaberach on page 173. There's also, I don't know whether is this the one where we sing Debbie Friedman and then put the names in? Not the, okay. Okay, on page 173 on the left-hand side is the, okay, the only wrong with the song is that the second stanza is where they put the blessing for healing. So I don't know how to get it in. So I'm going to read the names first, and then we can sing the melody. These are the people we're thinking of and praying for their healing. And I have, I'm adding a name from someone who I got a call today to go visit in the hospital on Sunday. Barbara Goldstein, she's from Bethel congregation. From our congregation, Sumner Sheff, Devorah Leah Bat Michael, Norwin Lande, Nachum Ben Yaakov Vabatya, Joel Gottesman, Yosef Tzvi Ben Fega, Lori Shapiro, Kenny Fuller, Kalman Ben Chaim, Shirley Pudnos, Zessel Bas Bat Gittel, Tuni Christy Robinson, Michelle Ross, Michal Yocheved Bat Chaim Bechana, Jeannie Eisenberg, Philip Eisenberg, Marjorie Simon, Les Moskowitz, Chaim Leib Ben Pinchas Vizalda, Ellen Etzel, Barbara Mark Dreyfus, Jody Chessman, Neil Portnoy, Nissim Ben Fredel, Robert Hirsch, Ruvain Ben Mendel Vachaya Riva, Robert Hirsch, Zadel Strichartz, Zadel Bat Yetta, Celia Schreiber, Neil Farber, Ellen Bresnick, Michael Donahue, Howard Pressman, Chaim Ben Esther, Linda Fox, Masha Miriam Bat Shepsel, Lawrence Cohen, Batya Esther Bat Ephraim Zemmel, Reuven Ben Ruth Schwartz, Yehoshua Ben Sarah Friedman, Leon Levine, Louise Falk Bat Shmuel Yosef Freda, Eileen Zemmel, Marilyn Green Malka Bat Hadassah, Sharon McCauley, Shoshana Sharon Bat Ruvain Vachana, Alan Baxt, Shmuel Velvel Ben Devorah, Iris Silverman, Chaya Bas Devorah, Bluma Ben Binder, Bob Sutz, Ari Kenny, Stevie Green, Leor Yisrael Ben Rachel, John Granick, Marty Cohen, Leonard Schwartz, Leib Aaron Ben Moshe Va'ada, Phyllis Weinstein, Fagel Bracha Bat Michal, Meir David Ben Brindle, Betty Hirsch, Rivka Shendel Bat Shea Vachana, Shalom Ben Pessel, Chaim Michael Ben Yitzchak Yocheved, Errol Rafal, Eliyahu David Ben Yehudit Chana, Shira Bat Chaya Moshe, Arlene Dworkis, Perla Bat Chilya Esther, Barak Ben Bracha. Anyone else who's being remembered for healing? The melody, the Debbie Friedman melody is on page 173 at the top on the left in the small print. Mishaberach Avotenu Mikor HaBracha Laimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mikor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen. Okay. Do we do the Kiddush at the end? Because it's it's not, the next page, okay. The Kiddush is after the end of everything? Okay, fair enough. We follow the Minhag HaMakom of our Mara Da'atra. Okay, sorry about that. We're on page 56 for Aleinu. Please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shalo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shalo sam chelkeinu gahem, v'gor aleinu kechol hamonam, v'anachnu korim, umishtachavim umodim, lifnei melech malchei amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. For the old-timers, Shehu Noteh Shamayim v'Yosei Haaretz, u'moshav yekaro b'shamayim ima, u'shchinat zo, begofei meromim, hu Eloheinu ein od, emet malkeinu efes ulato, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום והשבota אל לבבך, כי אדוני הוא אלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד. And the Ramah people go, okay, nekavelecha Adonai Eloheinu, lirab mehei rabbi tiveret usecha, lahavir gilulim min haaretz, v'ha'elilim karot yekaretun, l'takeno lam b'malchut Shaddai, v'chol b'nei basar yikru v'shmecha, l'hafnod elecha kol rishei haaretz, yakiru v'yedu kol yoshvei tevel, כי לך תכרע כל ברך, תשבע כל לשון. לפניך, אדוני אלוהינו, יכרו ויפולו. I left the melody. I apologize. I lost it. We'll continue to ourselves. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. You may be seated. You recall the Ortsites, among others, of Gertrude Levine, Max Goldman, Sam Bronkish, Harry Shear, Jack Sharp, Jeanette Pomerantz, William Beiser, Edna Schwartz, Edward Groff, Esther Jaegerman, Gilbert Pimienta, Helen Hers, Joseph Brody, Mildred Tiemann, Yvonne Bambi Wilczek, Annette Gattell, Mary Jaegerman, Joel Schwartz, Clara Jekyll, Ralph Goldstein, Solomon Rabinowitz, Sidney Brescian, Simon Wolk, Albert Feinstone, Evelyn Weisberg, Frederick Penzener, Frida Wolf, Max Borax, Pauline Rosenbaum, Rolf Lang. They're near the Ortsites being observed. Solemn testimony that unbroken faith which links the generations one to another, we join together in affirming our faith with Mourner's Kaddish on page 58. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, v'alma divra chirutei, v'amlich malchutei, v'chayechon uvyomechon, uv'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach leolam ulomei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shemei dekudsha brechu leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechemata tamiran v'yalma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. And now, oh, sorry, Mr. Portnoy, you have the announcement. There.
Hello, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you, Rabbi Bisman. It's wonderful to hear the old tunes. And thanks for leading us in services this evening. Marie Lewis, thank you for your technical assistance. If you don't know me, I'm Mike Portnoy. I'm your famous treasurer. And since tomorrow is July 1st, we go into a new fiscal year, and we ask you to renew your Gift of the Heart memberships. You probably received something in the mail, a renewal letter, so please review those letters for more details. And you can click the link in the bulletin to renew, or just call Pam in the office and she'll help you. Registration is now open for religious school. You can enroll your children at otaz.org/RGRS enroll 23-24. I'm sure you can remember that. Or Tzion and the National Council of Jewish Women will be baking for immigrant families in the kitchen of Temple Chai on Wednesday, July 12th at 5:30 p.m. See the bulletin to sign up. And of course, always check the e-bulletin and our website for all future programming and to register for events. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi, it's all yours.
I guess I don't. Okay, thanks. Okay, you can rise for Kiddush on page 55. And I almost had a panic. I thought it was supposed to go from 6 to 6:30. Luckily, somebody told me it can go from 6 to 7 because we're at 6:58. Huh? I'm doing fine. You can, when you've done it over and over a lot of times, then you can feel you've done it fine. You think it made me feel new to you? I know I did it for 40 plus years, but it's different, in a different place, with different technology. It's good to be back in the pew. I'm going to sit. I'll be looking forward to that tomorrow morning. Sabri chavirai v'rabotai, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, B'Shabbat Kodsho, B'Yahava Uvratzon Hinchilanu, Zikaron L'Maaseh V'Reishit, Ki Hu Yom Techila L'Mikrei Kodesh, Zecher L'Tziat Mitzrayim, Ki Vanu V'Acharta, Yotanu Kidashta, Mikol Hamim, B'Shabbat Kodshecha, B'Yahava uvratzon hinechaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Okay, how about Shabbat Shalom as the closing song? Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Shabbat, 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 Shalom. Shabbat, Shalom. Thank you all for joining us. Those here.